Welcome to our channel. Today we delve into the shadows to bring you the top 3 terrifying, scary stories that will send chills down your spine. Are you ready to face the darkness? Prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear are not just stories, they're windows into the darkest corners of our world. Stories whispered from soul to soul, tales that linger long after the lights go out. Deep in the woods of Maine, shrouded by towering pines, stood a dilapidated cabin. Its wooden walls were weathered and worn, a testament to the countless storms and the passage of time it had endured. Locals whispered tales of a family that had met a grim end within its walls, their souls unable to find peace. It's said that their despair lingers, staining the very air with a chilling presence. One fateful night, a group of friends, drawn by the thrill of the unknown, decided to spend the night in the cabin. They were young, filled with the sense of invincibility that only youth can bring, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. As darkness descended, the once comforting crackle of the fireplace transformed into unsettling whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The temperature dropped, a bone-chilling cold that seeped into their bones despite the roaring fire. They started noticing things, unsettling occurrences that couldn't be explained away. Shadows moved at the edge of their vision, and disembodied footsteps echoed through the empty halls. One of the friends, a young woman named Sarah, started seeing things. Fleeting glimpses of spectral figures that vanished as quickly as they appeared. Her friends brushed it off as her imagination playing tricks on her, but Sarah knew what she had seen.
I swear I saw something. It wasn't just my imagination, I know what I saw.
The following night, the haunting intensified. An oppressive feeling of dread settled upon them, heavy and suffocating. The whispers grew louder, morphing into blood-curdling screams that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then the entity made its presence known. The cabin's temperature plummeted, and a gust of icy wind extinguished the fire, plunging them into darkness. Panicked, they fumbled for their flashlights, their beams dancing across the room, revealing terrifying glimpses of the horrors that surrounded them. A spectral figure, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, materialized before them. Its ragged clothes and contorted features hinted at a life cut tragically short. The friends screamed, their voices lost in the cacophony of the cabin's fury. They huddled together, their hearts pounding in their chests, as the apparition glided towards them, its icy breath sending shivers down their spines. Sarah, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as the entity reached out with a spectral hand, its touch sending a jolt of terror through her very core.
I couldn't move. It was like my entire body was frozen in fear.
As quickly as it appeared, the entity vanished, leaving the friends in darkness and terror. They scrambled to their feet, their minds racing, their bodies trembling. They knew they had to escape, to flee from this cursed place, but the entity wasn't done with them yet. As they stumbled through the darkness, desperate to escape the horrors of the cabin, they were separated, their cries for help swallowed by the shadows. One by one, they were tormented by the unseen entity, their sanity pushed to the brink. Sarah, her mind teetering on the edge of madness, found herself alone in the darkness. She could hear her friends' screams, their pleas for mercy echoing around her, but she was powerless to help them. Our next tale takes us to the decaying halls of Cranbrook Mental Hospital. A decaying edifice with a haunting past. It is here we find the spectre of a former patient, driven to madness within these very walls. The asylum, now abandoned and left to crumble, was once home to countless lost souls, their minds ravaged by illness and despair. The air within its decaying walls is heavy with the weight of their suffering, a palpable reminder of the horrors that unfolded within its walls. The ghost that haunts Cranbrook is not a benevolent spirit. It is said to be the tormented soul of a patient who had been subjected to horrific medical experiments, his mind shattered beyond repair. Those who dare to venture into the ruins whisper of a malevolent presence that lingers in the shadows, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light, its voice a guttural rasp that chills the very bone. One night, a group of paranormal investigators decided to spend the night in the abandoned asylum, hoping to document evidence of the ghostly activity that had been reported there. They were a skeptical bunch, armed with cameras and recording equipment, determined to debunk the myths and legends that surrounded the asylum. As they set up their equipment in the main common area, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The air was thick with the smell of decay and disinfectant, and a palpable sense of dread hung over them like a shroud. As night fell, the investigators split up, each taking a different section of the asylum to monitor for any signs of paranormal activity. The silence was deafening, broken only by the creaking of the building and the occasional scuttling sound coming from the darkness. One of the investigators, a young man named Mark, was exploring the asylum's old medical ward. The rusted gurneys and stained surgical instruments sent shivers down his spine, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. Suddenly, he heard a noise. It was a low moan coming from one of the padded cells lining the hallway.
What was that? Did you hear that?
Mark cautiously approached the cell, his heart pounding in his chest. He peered through the small window in the door, his flashlight beam illuminating the dark interior. At first he saw nothing, but then he noticed a figure huddled in the corner. It was the ghostly figure of a man, his body emaciated and covered in sores. His eyes were wide and vacant, and his mouth was twisted into a silent scream.
Oh my God, what is that?
Mark stumbled back in horror, his blood turning to ice in his veins. The figure in the cell slowly turned its head towards him, its eyes locking onto his with an unnerving intensity. Our final story takes us to an antique shop filled with forgotten relics and haunted objects. Here we find the cursed doll. Its porcelain face, frozen in a grotesque mockery of a childlike smile, seems to watch your every move. No one knows where the doll came from or who created it. Some whisper it was crafted by a grieving mother, her love twisted into something dark. Others claim it was a plaything for a demonic entity, imbued with a malevolent spirit. Whatever its origins, the doll is undeniably cursed, radiating an aura of malice.
The antique shop owner warned potential buyers about the doll, his voice a low rasp. He told them of the doll's dark history and the tragedies that had befallen its owners.
One day, a young woman named Anya ignored the warnings and purchased the doll. She was captivated by its delicate features and its eyes that seemed to follow her.
That night, Anya's nightmares began. She dreamt of shadowy figures with glowing eyes, their icy fingers tracing patterns on her skin. When she woke, she felt a cold dread grip her heart. As days turned into nights, the nightmares intensified, seeping into her waking hours. She began to see shadowy figures lurking at the edge of her vision. The temperature in her apartment plummeted, a bone-chilling cold clinging to her.
One evening, as Anya sat alone, the lights flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. A wave of icy air washed over her, and she heard a child's laughter echoing through the darkness. She fumbled for her phone, her heart pounding. As she hit the flashlight app, the laughter grew louder, closer. She turned, her blood turning to ice. The doll, now at the foot of her bed, had a grotesque grin, its eyes burning with an unholy light.
Anya screamed and threw her phone at the doll, but it passed straight through. The doll tilted its head, its grin widening and...
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling stories. Stay safe and sleep tight. Remember, these are just stories, or are they? The darkness is always listening, watching, waiting for its moment to slip into your world. Sweet dreams if you dare.